All righty. Hey, Itzhak Beery, I am so excited for this conversation. I've been looking forward to it. For those of you who are tuning in, Itzhak Beery is an internationally renowned shamanic teacher, healer, speaker, and author of three Amazon best-selling books. He was initiated into the circle of 24 ya, ya, Yachaks, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, of Imbabura and the Amazonian Kanamari Pahe. Itzhak is the founder and publisher of shamanportal.org and the Andes Summit and co-founder the New York Shamanic Circle. He has received the Ambassador of Peace Award from the Universal Peace Federation and the UN. Itzhak, how the heck are you, man?
Thank you for the introduction and thank you for inviting me to speak to you.
Yeah, hey, my pleasure. I mean, I love to have people who are so vibrant and they have so much to offer. And you've got an impressive CV, yeah, your resume here. And can you tell us a little bit about what led up to you getting the Ambassador for Peace Award?
Well, um, I'm on the faculty of this organization that teaches all religions.
Hmm.
And in one of those classes, a person from that organization came here, which I know from many years too. And he offered, after that session, he offered to give me that award, which I couldn't say no. So
Mm.
the teaching that really I'm teaching there because they're learning all. It's an all faith seminary. So what I'm teaching is that the base of all religions is the shamanic practice, and I'm going with them on the elements of shamanism and how it really represents in every major religion. And that is the commonality of all of it is our relationship to nature and our relationship to the one or the mystery or the great mystery that chosen all of us to be on this earth at the same time so that we are all one and we are all the same. And all of those is labels that are created for separation. And I'm not shy to say that I do believe in the abolishment of all religions.
So when you say the abolishment, is that because religion itself, like there's something wrong with it, or is it? Yeah, can you maybe expound a little bit upon that?
Well, in the shamanic tradition, we don't have like the big shaman or the big Kohen or the Pope. Um, each person is have his own connection to spirit or to the great mystery.
Hmm.
And so we respect each person's experience or knowledge because it came from the source or came from, and we cannot really argue with people. Um, so there's no dogmas, there's no you must and you mustn't. There is no hierarchy. That you are the pope and there's another level and another and another. Then you're just like the one of the soldiers that all you're expected to do is to give money on Sundays. Um,
Yeah.
no, so, and all religions at the very end are an organization that needs to keep itself. It's a financial organization that needs to keep keep its existence, and it's
Hmm.
all about at the end money. And money is labels, and labels are separation, and separation is creating what we in shamanic teachings we are teaching, which is to the unity of all. That if there is God, God is in every cell of each person's body or in every cell of, of our environment. So there's uh, no one dogma better than the other. And when you say I am Jew, or I am Christian, or I am Muslim, or I am whatever religious you are separating yourself from others. You're
Mm,
creating shields, or you're creating boundaries, because I am not like you, and you are not like me, and my skin color is different than your skin color, and so I'm better than your. I mean, all of
mm.
that stuff is an old way of separating people from themselves and from nature, and which is what the disease is.
So that's so interesting. There's this idea in the Tao Te Ching that naming is the origin of all particular things. And in the Kabbalion, it talks about the all, right? It doesn't really say God, it talks about the all, and the all is all. And what you're describing, it sounds like, when we identify with our religion, or we identify with our skin color, or we identify with our socioeconomic group, we are now becoming a particular thing instead of being in flow with the all. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. Well, there is a need for labeling, because you can't. I mean, in the shamanic tradition, the belief is that everything is energy and everything is moving and everything is alive. But still, you don't want to go and bump into a tree, right? So
Mm.
a tree is an entity that we gave it a label that is a tree, or like a chair, or like a, you know. But when it comes to religion, the labeling is dangerous.
Mm.
It's it's actually dangerous. It's a weapon. And there were more people, in my opinion, or in my limited knowledge, more people died because of religious wars than of economic wars, or in any kind of a territorial war. So I think that religion as a institutions need to be abolished.
So I've often looked at religions as a fishbowl in the ocean, right? The fishbowl is the religion, and outside of that fishbowl, the ocean is spirituality, right? And what's interesting is that Jesus never said, "Hey, be me." When he said, "I am the way, I'm the light, and I'm the truth," I feel like he's saying, "Hey, do what I'm doing, walk in the way in which I'm walking, rather than be me." And what's interesting about the word dogma, if you turn it around and spell it backwards, it says, "Am God."
Oh, interesting. Well, I don't think that people should live with dogmas anyway, because like people say, the only constant thing is change, and life is changing, nature is changing, weather is changing, our age is changing, everything is changing. When
Mhm.
when you try to stick to one thing, then the whole idea of safety, that if you're just going to be a good Christian, you'll be safety, or just a good Jew, uh, that come from fear, come from ego, from the wrong side of ego. I'm actually think that ego is important, but the wrong side of ego, the fear part of it. And so if you want to live uh, in the flow of life, you can't hold on to dogmas, or to the thing that you have to let go. I mean, that's part of being a shamanic warrior, is to not to stick to what you know is, but to be in the flow of receiving and adapting to change.
Well, that's so interesting too, because again, speaking of organized religions and coming back to Jesus, right? He said that even the least amongst you can do as much and more in my name, and again, in the manner in which I am interacting, and what I find so fascinating there is that people who follow dogmas, right? I don't know a single person who is dogmatic to the core that can actually heal people, and yet here you are, a successful healer. Here I am, a successful healer, non-dogmatic, more spiritual. And you mentioned that shamanism really lies at the root of all, if not most, religions. Can you maybe share a little bit about the power of being able to heal others, through that root of shamanism?
I mean, the root of shamanism, of the shamanic healing, is the concept that everything in the universe is moving and changing in the speed of the atomic or the particles. And since we, or our consciousness, our thoughts is also moving and changing, we are interacting with our intention with the movement of particles in somebody else's body. Or we don't see his body, but we see it as a construct.
Hmm.
And if you take that idea that through prayers, which is concentration, through intention, that concentration, through the moving of energy with your hands or with any other element, we are manipulating energies. We are moving energies and bringing them into the flow of life or the river. That's what healing is about returning into balance.
Mm.
It is not like you are trying to heal the knee or the stomach or this cancer. You are trying to uh, rejuvenate the body, or to take the stones that are standing in the flow of the river, and creating the white water. You're moving the stones, the blockages, so the flow of energy, the river of light can flow in throughout the body, and the body heal itself. And that's also in the physical form and emotional form, because we don't really see differences between that, right? It's all the same. So I think that that's the basic of all of it. And if you know every religion have its own prayers, right? Its own way of communicating with the flow of life, which is, or the great mystery. But also you can also look at it that in every religion they all use the same four elements, the water, the air, the earth, and the fire. I mean, in every rituals in church, you're using the holy water, you're letting the fire, all of that. It's all part of that same rituals in a different dress, or in different
Hmm.
form. And there is no one religion that I know they don't celebrate the mystery, or the great mystery, or the unknown. There's no religion that don't celebrate fire or candles, or water, or, I mean, because this is the elements of life,
Hmm.
and the elements of life is the essential building block of life, and so every religion is a different packaging, or it's a different branding for an old or an ancient human experience that are started, like, from beginning of time. And this is really what we are talking about. Shamanism is the accumulation of knowledge, of wisdom, that human accumulate throughout time, through personal experience, which is, I think,
Mm.
that's very important. We know that water flows. There's no book that tells us that. There's no God that tell us that water flow. No, water flow because we know. We put our hands in there and we feel it. Or we go to a waterfall to wash ourselves. We know it's a personal experience. So, and I think that that's one of the differences between shamanism and religious, is in the shamanic tradition. All knowledge comes from self-experience. And in religious, you're waiting for somebody else to tell you how to feel, how to experience it.
Mm.
It's the same thing is that I always equate it to ice cream, because ice cream, I really love ice cream. is that if somebody come to you and describe to you vanilla lemon and tell you how beautiful it is, you can believe him or you can taste it. And when you taste it, you know
Mm,
what it looks like or what it feels like, the texture, the flavor, the feeling that you have when you are uh, consuming it. But if my rabbi or my your priest will come and tell you that if you just eat vanilla lemon or lemon vanilla ice cream, I'm talking because this is just new in my
sure.
refrigerator. Um, you can believe him,
Hmm.
but you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the knowledge, you
Mm.
don't have the personal conviction that this is what it is. And that's in the same way, I mean, like my God, like all these um, all the most all experiences that are written in the old and the new testaments and the other places are basically, trust me, believe me, this has happened, just trust me,
Right.
but don't try it, just follow it. That's not shamanism. Shamanism, you have to touch the fire to understand that it's warm, that it's hot. You have to be in the water to understand the the, the properties of water, or the property of earth and the property of air. Um, that is a personal experience, and that's what come. That's wisdom.
Well, and what I love about that is, to be honest, I think that the people who were first assembling the books of the Old Testament, I think they'd agree with you, right? If you look at Genesis in the beginning, right, the trees of life and the trees of knowledge of good and evil. Well, the tree of life is experience, right? Because there's no greater teacher than experience. But the tree of knowledge of good and evil, well, what happens is the brain is so easily convinced of its own brilliance that if it reads something and it says Eureka, I now know this, right? The same way that if I read about China, I can say, well, hey, I know China. Well, really? Have you been to China? Have you talked to Chinese people? Have you experienced Chinese cuisine actually in China? Well, no. So I only know about China. I don't actually know China. And I find that so fascinating with what you're saying about the need to experience life, because my mentor says that theory doesn't pay the cost of admission, right? And so we need to be able to experience life to see what it actually holds for us, and what's true and what's not. And what I find also very interesting, coming back to dogma and coming back to this idea of the idea of I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that my God is the one true God. Well, what's so interesting is that the people who know that their God is the one true God, right, they know their book is the one true book and there's no other book that can supersede it. Well, when they pray, right, you mentioned prayer earlier. When they pray from a place of scarcity. Oh God, I really need this to happen in my life. Please help me. As opposed to a great mystic like Neville Goddard, who says that when you put yourself in the feeling of the wish already fulfilled and thank the universe for giving it to you, well, that's where the magic is. And it's so funny because when you experience that and you put yourself on that path, you'll find that life starts treating you differently, because you're no longer projecting from a place of scarcity. You're projecting from a place of certainty and a place of security. And have you noticed? Have you ever worked with anyone who was dogmatic or had deep ties to religion, and you kind of helped them along this path, and you actually found them on their healing journey, just exploring and healing and just getting better?
Well, the people that comes to me, they are already made a decision to trust this, you know.
Wow.
So they make the leap themselves. But it's all around us. It's all around us. I mean, in the United States, you see the Christian rights, the evangelists. I see them in walking in Ecuador, or in the forest, in Brazil, in the jungles. I see them everywhere, like trying to force other people to believe in their in their dogmas. I mean, I'm coming from a Jewish country, Israel, and I see the fanatic people who are trying to force other people to behave and live a life that they don't want to live. So and or the Muslim, I mean, my God, So I mean, it's all around us. That's why I say that the biggest contribution we can do is to have a greater shamanic community in this world, the people who believe in your right to experience what you need to experience without me judging it,
Mm.
with allowing you to experience. And I truly believe that when people experience life in a way, they are not bad, they are generous, they would live in the more religious way or spiritual way. It's when you're trying to put them in boxes and label them, that's where people are getting a little confused. I mean, my God, I mean, what difference does it you have between Muslim Jews or whatever, or white and yellow, or red and black people? There's no difference, really no difference.
There, yeah, literally. I mean, we're all bipedal. We all have two arms, two legs, two ears, two eyes, and a nose, a mouth, right? The way in which we experience the world is near identical. It's just a matter of so many of us are caught up in the idea that, hey, look at me. I accidentally got born into the exact country I needed to be able to worship the right God, the one and true God. Wow, lucky me. But nobody, very few people take a step back and be like, well, how much truth is there to that? And what I find interesting, so again, come back to these two trees, right? The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Well, again, the mind, which is full of all the chatter, is so convinced of its brilliance. But when you experience life in a flow state, well, this is really when you start to learn. And that's when you've lived. And what's interesting is when you've lived, well, if you don't live, well, what's lived backwards? Well, it's devil. And where does the devil live? The devil's in the details. Where are the details? Right here, not right here, right? The heart only knows truth. The heart only knows what's good for us. The heart is what tries to tap us into that intuition, but the devil has us by the reins. And if we don't let that go and actually start experiencing and living life, well, then we'll find that, we are, being mounted, right, by that devil that's convinced of its own brilliance. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts around that.
Well, I thought maybe to take it to another level, because I believe that, or I know my experience, I don't believe, but my experience is that all religious stuff come from the masculine brain,
Mm,
and all shamanic knowledge or spiritual knowledge come from the intuitive part of the feminine energies. And I'm not talking about women and men or
right.
gender. I'm talking
Mhm.
about that quality of energies. And so part of all major religions, and there is really no one religion that is headed by a woman. If you noticed, they are all men. It is Buddha, it is um, um, Muhammad, Jesus, and Moses, and all of those. It's all male. And so, really, the focus of our life right now, or the shift that happened now in our consciousness, is between the excessive masculine uh, rule that we are experiencing the last 5,000 years, and the return of the feminine energy, which is symbolized by the feminine energies, which is about the earth. And you can talk about it in the sense that the element of air is the element of masculine, which is the element of ideas or ego or philosophy or this, and the element of the feminine is the earth, which is the mama. It is the growing, is the passion, it is the creativity, it's the intuition, it's the caring for others, it's all of that. And so on a larger scale, if you want to look at it like that, and that is part of the condor and the eagle prophecy of in South America, is the idea that we are now in a new Pachacuti, or new correction of time of 500 years, which is the blocks that they measure time, of the returning of the feminine to rule or to govern our decision making, our lives all over. And what I tend to look at, that all of this mayhem that we are experiencing now, all the crazy stuff, all the dictators, the autocrats, and all of that change, is the last dying breed of male power that is still trying to grapple, to hold on to 500 years of male occupation, colonialism, and all of that, and the forces that are underneath of all of it, and we all feel it, of returning to just society, caring society. There's no coincidence that Christianity now is in decline, like in a big decline.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, in the United States, and even in South America, there are less people now going on Sundays to pray in churches, and there is more people are gravitating to the shamanic practices. There was a research now out of the UK that said that the largest uh, spiritual practice or religion, whatever they call it, religion, but it's not, in the UK is shamanism.
Mm.
Uh, which is, I'm not surprised by it. It's nice to know that this broadcast and our books and our teachings and all of that is really have a spot in people's heart, because they feel the change. They yearn for that change. That we can actually see how the ego that come from fear, from not having enough, from scarcity, that rule the last 500 years, is no longer serving humanity. It's actually in a way of humanity, because we know that we can live differently. We can all know that we can live in abundance. We can, with the flow of life, with loving each other and sharing and healing each other, instead of forcing other people to live in life that they don't really want. You know.
So what I really love about what you're talking about there, especially, with the change, in the 500 years, and how we're now having more of that divine feminine, right, come out. And, again, in the idea, the Kabbalion talks about the principle of gender, and that, there's both masculine and feminine in everything. And I found that when I was growing up, as a kid, people would be like, "Hey, Josh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I was like, "Oh man, I want to be a marine biologist." That's stupid. You're not going to make any money doing that. Why would you do that? Right? You should do what I think that you should do to make money. And what's interesting is that, as a kid, that taught me to not trust my inner voice, which is also what religion does. Religion teaches you, no, 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 you're not supposed to trust yourself. You're supposed to trust your leader. And you're supposed to trust what you hear, and you're not supposed to test it. And what I love about, any credible, mystic, or, shaman or spiritualist that I've run into, always says, look, don't take me on my word, try it and see how it serves you. And when we tap into that intuition, well, that's that divine feminine, right? The subconscious, right? The idea of integrating the shadow, like Carl Jung talks about, right? Well, this is the shadow work. Well, that's integrating the divine feminine, right? Because it's allowing things to come to us. It's allowing the heart that knows only love, rather than the ego that's living in a fear-based system, which there's certainly levels to, ways to have a healthy ego, that has a healthy, understanding of self. But I love this idea of what you're talking about, because, anytime that I didn't listen to myself and I started listening to others and look to others to tell me who I am, well, my anxiety increased, depression increased. I'm a combat veteran. And so not being able to trust myself, right? Well, that certainly, hurt with PTSD until I learned to walk out of it. And what I love about what you're talking about is this unionization, right? This unionization of the masculine and the feminine, and being able to harness the power of our intuition and harness the power of experience. Well, I mean, is there much better to start to lessen, the demons, if you will, of anxiety and depression, than to harmonize the whole self?
I think that our teaching or our life experience, really, at the very end, is about letting go.
Mm,
It's about accepting life, or accepting that you are a canoe on a river, and that canoe cannot be controlled. Uh, you have to learn how to flow with that canoe, go through around rocks, lead you to where it needs to be. And if you are trying to control the outcome of that canoe, you're going to crash. And so all our life is about acceptance. All our life is about letting go, or trusting that the river will bring you to where you need to be. And I believe that in the shamanic way is about that. It's about believing that life will take you to where you need to be. And so you don't worry about it. You have to flow. Religious and all the other institutions, it's about order. It's about where you need to be. It's about resisting the flow. It's about creating walls, creating barriers. And the water wants to continue to flow, and the water is our emotions, um, and that's what happened to a lot of people who with anxiety, um, that uh, their life is not a flowing life. It's all about restriction. It's all about should, it shouldn't do. It's not about following your heart.
mm,
Uh, I mean, if you want, you can take that to another, the religion, the difference between religion and shamanism, to that level of, are you afraid of life that you need somebody else to tell you, or are you trusting life that it will bring you to where you need to be? And that's also the question of course, of do you understand your life purpose? Do you understand what you came here to do? Are you willing to follow your soul yearning? What's your soul yearn to do? Are you willing to go and do that, and be that warrior that live life with no fear?
mm. Well, and what's so fascinating with, what you're saying is, again, it's obvious that I'm a big fan of the Tao Te Ching. And there's this idea in there, and this can be a paraphrase, but when man is born, he's soft and supple. When a plant is born, it's soft and pliable. When a man dies, he's stiff and rigid. When a plant dies, it's dry and brittle. Therefore, those who are rigid and inflexible are disciples of death, and those who are soft and flexible are disciples of life. This doesn't mean good or bad. This doesn't mean that you're right or wrong. It just means that when you're a disciple of death, when you try to control everything rather than letting it go, well, you're causing, at best, you're causing those that white water with those rocks in the river. At worst, you're actually damming it up. And if you're damming it up, well, then what happens? Well, then there's no more nutrients flowing downriver. That water starts to stagnate. Then what's attracted to stagnating waters? Well, parasites, mosquitoes. And then, you get these nasty diseases, these nasty bugs that are being invited. And, this is an idea that I've had for some time now. And I saw the free gift that you are offering everyone, and make sure that you go and download that free gift. You'll have 48 hours to do so. Make sure, because it's all about protecting yourself from negative energies. And, I love this idea that you're talking about, that flow state, because another idea of the Tao is that if you give evil nothing to oppose, it'll go away on its own. Not because it's not there, but because you can step out of its way, right? And that's what flow does, right? If you got that stagnant energy, what happens if you get rid of those rocks? Get rid of those rocks, right? You don't have to fight those mosquitoes, because if you're fighting those mosquitoes where you're flopping your hands all over the place, your heart rate goes up. You're now breathing faster. And what are mosquitoes attracted to in the first place? The carbon dioxide that we're breathing out. So as we're fighting, we're actually increasing the amount of negative energy coming to us. And Carl Jung again talked about how, that which we resist persists. And so rather than resisting it, you get rid of the rocks, you step out of the way, and that flow comes and takes care of that stagnant energy by itself.
That's right. I, I was thinking about how we raise boys, because at least in my country, and I'm sure here too, you raise boys to be soldiers.
In many ways, yeah,
Uh,
boys don't cry. Yeah.
and boys don't cry, or boys, in order to be a good soldier, you can't cry, you can't show emotion, you can't kill someone and show that you're emotional about it. It has to be mechanical. So the idea of raising boys and men in our society that is based on occupation, colonialism, about taking other people's properties in life, is about numbing the emotions
Mm.
or stopping the river. Because if the river will flow, you can't just go and say, I'm sorry to kill you, and kill it. Because it's not going to work, right? You have too much emotions about that. So the idea is how to kill the emotions. And I do believe that this is all part of that kind of uh, that part of our culture is to numb men's emotions in order for them to uh, perform what the society duties giving them to do. And I think that that might be a nice place for men to revolt against, to say, listen, we are not going to be the soldiers that you want us to be. We're going to be the water. We're going to be the flow. We're going to be the nurturing people that we are. So the expectation of boys from very early age, based on the education uh, and the cultural um, teaching that we give them, is of numbing, 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 in order to be productive,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Well, and it really puts us in a great paradox, right? And when we alienate ourselves, we find ourselves propagating ideas that just don't make sense, right? Take America, for instance. America is land of the free. We've got 4 to 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners. Well, that doesn't sound very free.
Not to me.
Right. And, America also is somebody who or is a country that talks about how we are founded on Christian values. I don't know that I fully agree with that, but it's a sentiment that a lot of people accept. And what have we already, discussed that happens, in, most religions, is that there's that tight need to control. And that tight need to control, well, what does it do? Well, it blocks that flow. And why is that? Why, is that detrimental? Because again, it invites those parasites to then, drain our life force. And when our life force is drained, well, then the body and the mind, they break down as a natural consequence. And when we can get that natural flow, and then we can actually get that life force reinvigorated, well, then the body and the mind, well, they heal as a natural consequence. And then not only that, but then there's more joy, right? There's more expression, there's more music to life, and there's more art, there's more beauty, and then there's more ability to tap in within ourselves. But if life is fear-based and miserable, well, it's a wonderful way to control people and to get them to be those soldiers that you were talking about.
That's it. That's it. That's why I think that prophecy of the condor and the eagle need to be so much in front of us. And in many ways, they're not really talking about that the condor will become the eagle and the eagle will become the condor, or the masculine will disappear into the becoming feminine and the feminine will disappear too. But it is about the dance of harmony between them, or the ability to supplement each other, to live in harmony instead of pushing way, one way or the other. Which basically it's about living life um, with um, as a whole, like a masculine and feminine within ourselves in harmony. That we listen to our intuition, but we are able to act. That we are listen to be creating and being powerful. So it's all of that together, not just one-sided.
So, for those who may be a little unfamiliar with that prophecy, can you maybe talk about its origins and what kind of brought about that prophecy, the condor and the eagle?
So the it's like anything that comes from a story of storytelling. We don't really know the origin.
Okay.
Uh, there are some people in Peru, for instance, they said that it's a made up prophecy. But for people in Ecuador, for them, it's something that known. I
Mm.
heard the first time I heard about that is in 1997, so it was many years ago. Uh, and basically, they were talking about that in the Quichua or Inca tradition, they measure time in periods of 500 years. And the last period of time was when the Spaniard came to South America. The big Holocaust happened there, and they occupied the land for 500 years. And it started in 1593, which is when the last emperor were killed. And they, according to what they said, that they expected that to happen because that was ending another 500 years of period before of the Inca rule. So they expected that to happen, and then that period of cruelty, masculine wars, occupation, colonialism, and all of that ended around 1993. And then around that time, shamans that were forbidden from practicing their uh, rituals and ceremonies and language started to come out into the open and started to teach. And my teachers and myself were all from that period of time. We all started at that time. That we just all have that calling. The eagle had the calling to come down to the south to learn from the condors. And the condors that from the jungle that were so afraid or elusive, were afraid to share their knowledge, came out of their hiding, and we started to share more information. That's why you see this explosion of indigenous wisdom and teachings from all over, and that's also correlate later on with plant medicine and other things that are starting to proliferate in our society. But it's all come from that more or less time, 1993. but even in so that where we are now um, is a period of adjustment between the two. And even 500 years ago, it took about 80 years to move from the Inca ruling uh, re, regime into the Spaniard. It really never happened in one day. It's just a transition that happened, and then throughout the transition, there was a lot of wars and a lot of conflicts, and until it all settled down, that and if you remember that also there were like almost 90% of indigenous people in the South America died of disease at that time. So, but it took 80 years for that to settle down, and then those now we are in the next 80 years of transition
Mm,
between the masculine, the Trumps, the Netanyahu, the Erdogan, the all those Putin, all those men who are thinking that they need to show their masculine side,
mhm,
and between the feminine energies that are now is showing us more senators and vice president is a female, more women around in politics and culture now is showing their power. So we are now in that transition. The first time that I heard about it in 1997 was from Yachak, uh, Taita Don Alberto Tazzo, who heard that from his father, who heard it is from his father. And so, you never really know the root where it's all began. Like any other prophecies, it's just it's a story. It's a telling. It's a way of looking at the world and making sense of it in a storytelling way. And maybe people ask why condor and one eagle. So the eagle is a predator, is a killer, it's an organizer. You can see that in every almost almost in every empire in the Western world, they put the eagle on the flag, right? Nazi, United States, the Romans. You can go like that. You can see. So the eagle is about power, is about control, it's about army, it's about killing.
strength and yeah.
And the condor is the other way around. The condor a vulture.
Mhm,
He eats the dead, which is mean that he's preventing diseases from happening. He is also sharing. He lives in a community. He doesn't live like he doesn't build nest. He he eats only the food that he needs and share it with other animals. It's a way of living from your heart. It's a way of sharing. It's a way of sharing wisdom and knowledge, the way they teach their young how to fly. And so in shamanic work, we are looking at symbols, how to make sense of life. And so the eagle represent the industrial West, um, and the condor represent the feminine heart or the mother. And so the idea here is that they would not merge. They would not become one bird. We don't want that because I think that each of those qualities need to be, but they need to learn how to fly in a way that is harmonizing each
yeah.
other, supporting each other. And actually, from 1993 until now, I can see, I'm going almost every year or twice a year to the Amazon and to other places like that. I can see how the medicine of the ego is penetrating so deeply into the indigenous world. In 93, there was no phones, no television, no electricity, no computers, no nothing. And then slowly, every year, we are exporting all our uh, digital work for people who never experienced it, and then they are controlling it in beautiful way. And they have two sides to it. One of them is that they are able to communicate with our world and becoming lawyers, becoming advocates for their own life. On the other hand, it's corrupting them because it brings all our sickness. But on the other hand, we the people that goes there and teach and bring group over there for people to see, we bring those wisdom and teaching like we do today
Mhm.
to the Western world. And that's really the idea: is how do we help each other in the new period of time, the new Pachacuti.
I love that. And, we don't know how to help somebody else if we don't actually learn how to help ourselves. And, I'm curious, as we wrap up here, do you have any, do you have any thoughts, any words of wisdom for people who are currently, experiencing, maybe chronic pain in their body, maybe it's an autoimmune disease, maybe it's some level of, just their back, their necks, their joints, or maybe it's even PTSD, right? Do you have any words of wisdom for how, maybe minor changes that they can start making in their life to start to invite that flow?
Well, I think that you just said it: invite the flow. So in in this tradition, you want to think about diseases as an invitation, as a teaching, as a learning. Um, you know, um, you know, my cancer taught me a lot, and I learned a lot about how to befriend with death, how to live when I went through the trauma, through the understanding. It taught me how to live life, not
Mm.
to be afraid.
So what does this disease have to tell me? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you have to become a friend with that disease.
Mhm.
You have to, I wouldn't say love it, but love it. Accept that. The more you resist it, the more the impact will be worse on you, especially if you have PTSD. It's the more you relax into it, the more you allow the flow of that energy in the body, the less it's going to affect you, right? Because you're
Mhm.
going to be flowing in one direction. You're not resisting. Uh, it's a it's a we don't really like pain. We are a society that avert pain, but pain is a result of resistance of something. Like when we have pain in our body, it's about inflammation, right? It's about the flow of blood that is not moving, and so it's about inflammation. Heal the inflammation. What is it telling you? That you have dams in your body, energy blocks in your body that are not flowing. Where they come from. So if it's in the knee, which I have, it's about flexibility, right? So learn how to be more flexible in your life. It's about digestive system. It's about emotions. What is the emotion that you are holding uh, and not letting go of? You know, and, you know, I experience all of it. It's not like I'm teaching you something that I never experienced.
Yep.
Um, and right now I'm dealing with diabetes, so I'm talking about a lot with my body about that and the
What I
PTSD.
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. You said something really interesting. I'm dealing with diabetes. You didn't say I am diabetic because
Oh, no,
so
no, no,
many
no.
people cast these spells on themselves. And instead of showing up as their great I am, they say, I am diabetic. I am arthritic. I am my cancer, right? And they immediately limit themselves. And, Bruce Lee used to talk about how we need to be careful how we speak to ourselves because our body can't help but listen. And when we program ourselves with these ideas, well, what happens, in the body, and you may be well aware of this also, is that thoughts and emotions create neuropeptides, right? Neurotransmitters. Well, those neuropeptides and transmitters go flow into the body. Well, what's around every single cell in the body is a membrane that says, hey, what environment are we in? Hey, is it raining? Right? Should we put on our coats because it's raining right now, or is it sunshine? And so many people want to feel sunshine, but they're sending all of the chemicals that it's raining all day long, every day into their body. And so then when they finally, see a peak in the clouds and then it goes away, they don't lean in to be like, oh, hey, what did I do to find that peak in the clouds where that sunshine came? They say, oh, this doesn't work. And they give up and then just go back to the raining. And so, yeah, I love everything that you've been saying.
One of the things that I think that we want to look at when we are sharing our disease and pain and all that is that it become a tool
Mm,
to attract attention.
mm,
And um, and I'm sure you've been to a gathering that people start talking about their diseases, right? I mean, this is like the favorite things for elderly people. So it's really become a way to of a conversation instead of talking about life, about their plans, about what excites them, about what a book that they read, about a movie they've seen, about sex that they had. I don't know, anything that makes life exciting.
yeah.
They talk, they get more attention for concentrating on the shadows, the darkness, the pain. Um, and I think that we have to be very careful. How do we get attention? Or why do we share all of that? And then when we share that, that become our identity. When we
Mm,
share that, that becomes a tool for us to get more love, more attention. And it's, from my point of view, it's not very helpful. It is more helpful to say, okay, so I had and I still do have cancer. I have cancer cells, but I talk to them. And it's also reminding for me that life is short. That I need to write another book. That I need to make another webinar. That I need to hug my grandchildren and my wife,
mm,
or that I need to do. I need to be productive. I need to do something that makes celebrate life, because life is very short. So it is how people. Well, I think that maybe that's one of the first way I would say to people who have chronic disease. It's not you, it's your body. You is your soul,
yes.
that energy that came here to experience. And one thing that this energy came here to experience is that how you deal with disease. How do you deal with sicknesses? What do you learn from it? Is it a good teacher for you? And not to concentrate on making other people sympathize with you because of your darkness or pain, but to concentrate on the life force that you have, the beauty that you can bring to people's life, your heart, all of that.
Mm, man, I love that so much. And now what a wonderful place to stop. And along those lines, again, your free gift that you're giving to everyone who attends, this summit is all about protecting yourself from negative energies. And so go download that now. You'll have 48 hours to do that. And Itzhak, this has been amazing, man. I've really appreciated this conversation. You are a brilliant man. And if people wanted to be a part of maybe a retreat of yours, or to get involved with your work, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Well, I have a website, which is my name, itzhakbeery.com, and you're very welcome to come. And I have a list of all my events and banners and all that. I'm trying to keep it pretty accurate. I take people to Ecuador to study with other shamans and to experience plant medicine in the Amazon and the Andes. And this year I'm taking people to Mount Sinai in Egypt, in Israel, and I do a lot of teachings and around the world, in Israel, in Amsterdam, and London. So just follow and come. There's also webinars that are easier to participate. But the most important thing is to experience.
Yep.
You can read books, of course. You can read my books if you like. But it's really more important is to experience being one with nature,
Yep.
to be in flow. And maybe I want to say that my teacher, Ipupiara, from the Uru tribe from Brazil, used to say that we are all shamans. All humans are born with the DNA code to help other people survive. Not just us, but for other people. We have the dreams, we have the ability to sing, to dance, to hug, to make other people feel loved. So the most important thing is to understand that you are already a healer and shaman, even if you are not practicing it. And most importantly is to take responsibility about it and practice it every day.
I love it. I love that so much, man. This has been so amazing, such a brilliant nuggets of wisdom, and I agree with everything that you're saying, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I would love to hear feedback from people who join this summit. That if they go to Mount Sinai, or they go to Ecuador, or they go to Brazil with you, that would be amazing. But again, my friend, this has been incredible. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your time, and hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the year.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a really pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks. All right, everyone. Bye bye.